What is up, guys? DZ here, and I don't know what I'm going to call this video yet. It's going to be this new sort of podcast type thing that I'm doing. But today I have Cimoooooooo here with me. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Does the podcast have 8 O's in it?
Probably not. People were really mad at that mystery power box video that I made about you, that I didn't put all 8 O's on it. They were really disappointed about that.
I saw that. There was so much like unrelenting hatred because you didn't put all the O's, Doug. It mattered.
It's tough. Anyway, though, I have some questions for him. We're just going to kind of sit here and chit-chat. Ideally, I want to do this with other YouTubers as well, so Cimoooooooo here is sort of my guinea pig, and he also just passed 40K subscribers. That's really big for a YouTubing channel, so let's all give him a round of applause for that. Can we get some pizza rolls in the chat? This isn't live. Anyway, the first question I had for you is, why did you decide to start making videos?
So this is actually a really funny story. So I took a brief hiatus from the game around Teledad format because I was young, I didn't have money, and the game was really expensive, and I got very jaded at that fact. So I decided to just quit for a while. I never really gave up the game, though. I always kept up with stuff, but I pretty much stopped playing entirely and had a lot of stuff going on in life, things like that. And so when I finally did decide to come back in it, I was just watching YouTube videos. And, at the time, that's when like MCole40 and, Mega Capital G were pretty much, kind of like the old school, like Gen 2 YouTubers were like pretty much really all there was, because YouTube was, I guess, a little bit in its infancy, if you want to call it that. And I'm watching these videos, and Robbie knows this story, but I was watching Robbie's videos and I'm like, Robbie's got some really good content, like in terms of like what he's telling us, but he's just really boring in his delivery. And so I thought to myself, I could do the same thing, but actually deliver it with like a much more enthusiastic attitude, just because, I naturally have a very positive demeanor, and, I'm like I'm super overly exaggerated in my videos, of course, but you've known me for a while now. I'm actually just naturally energetic. So it's pretty much is just where it came from. I decided, hey, I'm going to start making them. And that's where Cimoooooooo was born.
That's crazy too. I always tell the story. It's not really a story. It's more of an observation that there was a point, believe it or not, subscribers that are watching this video, that I was several thousand subscribers ahead of Cimoooooooo.
That's true.
There was a point I can distinctly remember. I think when I had 5K subs, you had 2K, and I was like, wow, this guy's gonna blow up. There's actually a couple channels that are right now that are happening that have about 2K subs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they blew up in the next year here or so. But clearly, what you're doing, and I think the enthusiasm is like really good for selling your channel, like a really good selling point, because I think there aren't a lot of channels, or there weren't a lot of channels that were doing the same level of enthusiasm that you were doing, while also having the same grasp and knowledge about the game that you have. I think that separates you as well.
Well, and I think one of the big things as well is that I think the Yu-Gi-Oh community inherently has like a negative connotation affiliated with it, that, we're kind of like edgy or like punkish or thuggish, or however you really want to define it, just because of like, if you see the way our community acts sometimes, I guess kind of people don't exactly give us like a positive reputation. So it's kind of nice that I guess you're injecting this like positivity, and like, someone who's like super passionate about the game, like into it, it's like, holy shit, like it just comes out of nowhere. And it kind of just, when people like, I've talked to some people at events, and when they say they first watch my videos, like they said it just like knocked them on their ass, because they weren't like expecting someone that enthused about the game to be, making content. So, here we are now. It seems to be, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it seems to be working. One question I have, and this is, I guess, depending on who else I interview, this could be a completely different answer. I think I at least sort of know your answer, but do you think it's possible, or what are the challenges associated with balancing playing and making videos? We see there's a lot of degrees of YouTubers out there right now. Maybe the commenters, and if you don't produce content, you might not realize it, but there's a really big difference, and I know, because I've very recently transitioned to one or the other. But there's a big difference between uploading like 1 or 2 videos after you go to an event and then not uploading for a week, and uploading daily content. I used to be the former, and now I'm the latter. Cimoooooooo pretty much has always been the latter from what I know, but you also are one of the most distinguished YouTubers that, I mean, you recently came really close to getting a top 32 at a YCS, and a lot of YouTubers just don't even play the game in real life, where you're still going to events and stuff. So is it possible to have that balance, and has there been sort of difficult moments where you thought, well, I have to get this video up, but I really need to test, and which one did you choose?
Yeah, so it's really funny because I definitely I make content more than I play, 100%. And it's funny because when I go to my locals in town, my friends are always like, you're never here, but you're always making videos about the game. So they don't understand like how I'm always doing so well. And it's also why it took a lot of people by surprise that I almost did make that top 32 in Seattle and stuff as well. And I just, got my invite at the last regionals, things like that. So people are kind of shocked that, they never see me play, but yet I managed to still do well and produce all this content at the same time. So I definitely think there is a balance, and I look at myself more as a content producer than a player, as much as I love being a player. But it's kind of, they're both hand in hand, because I feel like the more content I produce and the more I familiarize myself with all these different aspects of the game in as much in-depth levels as I possibly can, I feel like that actually in turn makes me a better player, because I'm keeping up with everything possible. And I feel that if you can teach something to other people, that just reflects very well on your ability to also perform when it comes to what it is that you're teaching, essentially.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction to make with your content related to like other content, because there's a lot of YouTubers out there that people know as people that don't really go to events or don't top events, but they have like a lot of followers. And I think if you look at Cimoooooooo's channel, it becomes very apparent that he knows what he's talking about. You don't see super clickbaity and then like nostalgia bait. You don't go to Cimoooooooo's channel and see like Dark Magician attacks directly for 9,000 damage, stuff like that like clearly it's just like meant towards casual players, and it's usually just like a replay that someone sent in to them. That kind of content doesn't really take knowing how to play the game. You're just commentating over replay, where your stuff is very clearly, what you're talking about. Right.
And to be fair, there's nothing wrong with people who upload content like that, because different people go to YouTube for different things. So like, I don't want to place myself on like a pedestal above anyone else or anything like that. But at one point with my channel, I decided that I wanted it to be like an educational channel where not only can you come for, my silly antics every once in a while, but when people watch a video, I want them to get something out of it, whether it's just informational news or I'm actually teaching them something about like game mechanics or combos or what's going on in the meta or something like that. Because, it's funny, I'm going to be teaching in college soon. So I kind of decided that at the same time, well, maybe I should make my YouTube channel catered to be teaching as well, because that caters to both the casual and the competitive audience, because everyone, in my opinion, can learn something about this game. And frankly, if it makes them a better player, then I did my job and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. The other thing that I had to ask, and maybe this is sort of obvious now that I'm thinking about it out loud, but how has your vision for your channel changed over the years? And that could be, because it sounds like you sort of have stuck with the enthusiasm things, maybe not so much a stylistic change, but maybe you started out as a hobby, and now that you have 40,000 subscribers, you're looking at it potentially as like a second income or a main income even. And I guess I've talked to you behind the scenes, so I sort of know the answer.
Right.
But how has it changed over the years? You've been doing this a while. You've gone through, I'm sure, ups and downs, and you're really successful right now. So how has the vision for the channel been changed over the years?
So I'm very much a person that when I put my mind to something, that I just go at it 100%. And YouTube has kind of been like that. At first, I would say it actually didn't start out that way, but I actually stumbled into some good fortune, I would say, with the Next Great YouTuber, because I feel like because I was a part of that competition, that actually jump-started my channel by several thousand subscribers. So I didn't have a lot of difficulties that newer channels faced, where they have to get over like the 100 or the 200 hump or like the 1,000 hump. Like I got that basically in the first few weeks of doing this, because I seized an opportunity that was in front of me. I entered that competition.
How far did you go in that competition?
I made it to the top 4, I believe, or the top 8. I don't recall specifically, but I entered that competition with only 8 subscribers. I had the lowest sub count out of everyone in that competition, but because Dan saw how enthusiastic I was about this, he gave me the opportunity, and I took full advantage of it. And that's where I say I go 100% in it. And I left the Next Great YouTuber. I didn't win it, but I had several thousand subscribers and a very decent following and dedicated following from that. And from that, I was able to build, this massive channel that I have now. And honestly, I'm still in shock that it's grown as big as it has. Like 40,000, if you asked me if I was going to grow that big, a couple years back when I started, I tell you, you're absolutely crazy. But the fact we're here now, I mean, it's just been a lot of hard work, but at the same time, I've had fun with it. I never really look at it as work.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's funny that you bring up that you would never thought it would get this big, because my subs always like bringing up this video that I made in 2014, I believe, where I have like 1,500 subscribers, and I'm super excited, and like I gained like 1,000 of those in 1 year. And I was like, I don't think I can like get bigger than 2,500. Like I think that's like the cap. And clearly it was not. I don't think I'll ever be as big as you are, but maybe someday.
You're on track. You never know. Social Blade team.
Yes, Team Social Blade here.
Team Social Blade in the comments.
If you're not looking at Social Blade every 10 minutes, you're losing. So the next question I have is, have you ever regretted uploading a video? And if so, have you ever taken a video down? Not like there's a difference between like a video never seen the light of day and you just decide to not upload it. But I mean, like, have you ever had a video up for like a day or two and then taken it down for one reason or another?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever taken a video down. If I did take a video down, it was because there was an issue in the editing and I wanted to fix it. So it wasn't for like any like controversial reasons or anything like that. It was strictly because I wasn't happy with the fact that I made a mistake in the editing and I wanted to make sure that my product was, good. So I would take it down, fix the edit, and then re-upload it. And I haven't done that in a long time though. But in terms of like something I really regret, I had some hesitation when I made the whole video about sexism in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah, that was a that was a firestorm if I've ever seen one, because on one hand, there's the whole like, oh, social justice warrior stigma, blah blah blah, like all that, but at the same time, I'm very much a feminist, and I feel like that's an area of the aspect I feel that the game can be improved upon, just in the way that we treat other people, things like that, and I like I said, I hesitated about it, but at the same time, I was happy I did it in the end, because I've actually had some, both men and women come up to me, and they both told me, like, you have balls for posting that video. And they would talk to me about it, and we would just go and just in-depth discussion about it, and how, sex and gender, plays a role in the game, and how it's not really something that's really talked about too often. So ultimately, I'm glad I did it, but I can't say I didn't do it without hesitation.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. And then the last question I have for you is, what's the next step for your channel? And that could be content-wise, it could be, I guess it could be a subscriber goal, but those sort of just happen naturally. And I mean, we know how fast you're growing, so I suppose you have I suppose you have a pretty good idea of how fast you're going to grow and where you're going to hit your milestones. So more just like, what's the next step content-wise or style-wise? Or is there anything that you haven't done that you still want to do, and you think that now you're at a bigger point that you can actually do that? Mm-hmm. What's the next step?
So there's a couple things. The first one, a lot of my fans know that I started the How to Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and I stopped that abruptly right around the time they announced Link Summoning. And the reason for that was because it kind of threw a wrench in how I was designing the whole series. I had the whole thing laid out, like every single episode, like on paper, and how it was going to work. But then they announced Link Summoning, and I'm like, oh shit, well, this is kind of going to mess some things up. But I wanted to basically just have an entire dedicated series on Yu-Gi-Oh! That could take someone who knows nothing and teach them how to play the game. And it's a big project, and I want to get back to it. And now that Nats is going to be coming and we're going to have Link Summoning in effect, that's going to be when I start that series back up and I finish it, because that's kind of like my magnum opus of sorts, that I just want to have like that lasting legacy on YouTube, that anyone can just learn how to play the game from nothing all the way up to, you know, being a, you know, semi decent player, I'd like to think. So that's that. And then I also just recently bought a new camera, which a lot of people knows as well. And the reason I bought that is because I've always wanted to take like skits, like Yu-Gi-Oh skits, but kind of take them to the next level, almost like short, like films, or like just like shorts, and kind of just make them like Yu-Gi-Oh related, but just like with a level of content that we haven't really seen in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, but make them like entertaining, you know, make them silly, whatever, kind of like what Yu-Gi No does, but like even like beyond that almost. So that's another thing I want to work on as well. And just there's so many different ideas I really want to do, and the more support I get from, you know, whether it's subscribers, just people watching my stuff or leaving a comment, whatever, I have so many ideas I want to create, and the more I create, the more I want to create. So it's just a never-ending cycle, and I'm really excited for what's to come, because I don't even know, and it kind of scares me a bit of where it's going to go, but ultimately I think it's going to be for the better, because I have good intentions, and I just really just want to bring a lot of joy to people's lives when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, fair enough. I really like that line of the more you create, the more you want to create, because I've sort of noticed that for myself even. I mean, right now on my YouTube page, I have 4 videos scheduled, so I have 4 days of videos. I mean, that was, in these past 2 days, I've recorded like 7 videos. It's just been out of control, but I totally understand that. But I think it's going to wrap up the podcast type thing. If you guys have any suggestions for questions that you'd like to be answered, or people that I should have on here, please let us know. And obviously, I'm sure all of you are subscribed to Cimo, but if you're not, I'll leave his channel in the description. And thank you so much for coming on here.
Thanks so much, Doug. It was a lot of fun, and you make some really good content as well. I think you're still one of the underrated content producers, in my opinion. So glad to be here.
Okay, thank you.